To fetch the single blog and then render that out onto the page, we also need to create the page based on the param in the URL. We should see the entire blog in markdown format on our whatever page it is on there. So if we go into here in our app, where we created the articles folder within the pages, I'm going to create a new file. This is a wildcard file, and what we need to do is paste in the following, which is curly brackets and then mdx.frontmatter _ slug .tsx. This is essentially the front matter slug that we are rendering on the URL param. What I want to do is copy what I already have, which is essentially a single blog post. This can be the single article or the single Porky blog post, so I can just rename that. And then it's bad practice, but I'm just going to use the any keyword for the props and also bring in the layout like so. So we need to import this in from components layout. And then the props we are receiving is the data and the children. The way we would do that again is to do a GraphQL query, but this time what we want to do is query for the single blog, and the way to do that is get access to the blog excerpt or the slug in the URL, and then that way we will be able to query the single blogs. Let's go ahead and do that. I also need to import the SEO in here, and the title will be dynamic, as you can see here, data.mdx.frontmatter title. We need to import the query. Let's go ahead and try and get the queries in our graphical instance. We have the all MDX, but this time we just want the single MDX. So this is how you would do it. And then the single MDX is going to be MDX of frontmatter. We need the title, and we also need the date. Let's get them. This is going to be equal to a certain ID. In our case, it will be the slug. So let's just copy this slug. And the date, what we're going to be doing with the date is to format it in the relevant way. But the title in this case will be the slug of top water type Pokemon. And if I press play, we don't get anything. So in the single MDX over here, what I want to do is filter out by the ID. So what I'm going to do is bring in code in here. All we need to do now is change this. The ID in this case will be the top water type Pokemon, which is what we copied earlier. And we want that as a string. So let's do that. Now, if we search, it just says we need to use double quotes. So let's go ahead and do that. Instead of all MDX, we now want to access MDX this time. So this is where we will get the individual markdown file. But this time we will filter based on the ID, which is coming from the URL over here. So if we go back into our code, at the top on line 4, what I'm going to do is paste in the query. We also need to import GraphQL. Now, if I save all, this page would have built. So the frontmatter slug would have built. We then query it with the ID that is relevant in the slug that we are receiving here. What will happen is in the data, we should get access to data.mdx.date, and then also the children will get rendered. First of all, console log the data, and then the children will get rendered on the app anyway. This is the individual blog post. Now, if I save and go into the browser, if I press back and then I click onto this one, you can see the blog post has generated. So if I scroll down and look at this individual blog post over here, you can see that the data is being passed in. This part here is the children that gets rendered on the page, which is essentially the blog post itself. But the data is essentially the MDX, front matter, the title, and the date get rendered at the top here. That is essentially how you would fetch an individual blog post using Gatsby. What we're going to be looking at next is fetching the data using the GraphQL instance, more specifically the Pokemon data, and then rendering it out here like so, and then adding the filters in as well.